Bringing history back to the curriculum, to the syllabus. So that heroism that is so essential to the consciousness, the kind of consciousness that Jam and Anikulapo spoke about, can only happen when you have heroes through whom you can learn greatness and you can also learn villainy. Okay? Why is Fela important today? It's important because as a hero, you can juxtapose him with the villainy of his time. Okay? When you consider Abiola as a hero, you can juxtapose him with the villainy of his time. When you look at Nelson Mandela as a hero, you could juxtapose him with the villainy of his time. So that at the end of the day, when you put books on them, on the syllabus, you are also indirectly going to have a kind of composite, comprehensive story of their time, which I think no generation should be denied, right? Because at the end of the day, as Franz Fanon said, every generation must, out of relative obscurity, discover its mission, fulfill it, or betray. You can only fulfill what the mission that you know about. If you don't know anything about that mission, you can't fulfill it. You won't even know when you are betraying the vision. You won't know. So it's important that at that level, at the curriculum level, we should return books like Zambia Shall Be Free, Tell Freedom that you talk about, and other books related to that. Finally, to also illustrate that, let me remind us, and you could Google this, and you know, it's on YouTube. When Fidel Castro died, there was a documentary done by BBC. You could YouTube it. And they went to various secondary school and primary schools in Cuba. They asked those kids about Fidel, about Che Guevara. And I nearly shed tears when many of these kids were quoting from speeches of Fidel. They were quoting not even the speeches of Che Guevara, they were also quoting poems, lines of poems written by Jose Marti. You know, it was on the soldiers of Jose Marti that people like Fidel Castro and Che Guevara stood. Okay, that was how they discovered their own mission, and they did not betray the mission. Okay, can we say that of our own kids today? Can we? So it's important, please, when we gather like this, to make it a point of duty to pursue that line. I mean, we could say that put this back on the syllabus. Put history, let us have history back on the syllabus. Mark you, I have not talked about the nature of that history, right? If you want to put the history of Babangida on that syllabus, so be it. But we must argue that we must also have a counter to the history of Babangida. But let us have history back on the syllabus, and let us have all those literature, all those texts that inspired people like him back on the syllabus. In fact, upgrade. This is the time to upgrade all those you know, or the list, you know, the list of those books.
Who had brought themselves together from America to Nigeria to discuss Fela. Professor Toyin Falola, Oshofison, Albert, Professor Silva, and quite a number of people that if a country had them, you would almost automatically assume that that country would become a great country. To have such eggheads coming together to discuss a musician actually gives you the feeling that at some point in time, we could have what you will call Felaology. In the way that people talk about musicology, you will then have a branch of musicology called Felaology. They have actually done so at the University of Ibadan because there is a special studies department devoted to the study of Fela and his music and his impact on the society. I went there just to read poetry, and I want to say that I became a poet by responding to people like Fela, Anikulapo, Kuti. Anybody who has read The Poet Light will remember that there is a poem on Fela and there is a poem on Miriam Makeba, and there are poems on such characters in society. Thank you so much.
Why? Because I discovered that the more you think you know Fela, the more you realize that you didn't know him. The more you write about Fela, the more you discover that you still have much more to write, you know, about him. And as I said in the book, this is somebody that I encountered through three important phases of my life. The years of, you know, childhood as a village boy, as it were, who never had opportunity of visiting Kalakuta Republic nor seeing Fela play, but connected with him by just listening to his music in my uncle's musical store at Ijebu-Jesha, and doing the Fela gyration with my senior brother, just the two of us in other pants. Then the second phase, my university years as an undergraduate, as a student union activist, and as a president of National Association of Nigerian Students, when we saw him perform live on campus, and then when we were asked to come and defend him because, you know, he was jailed for currency trafficking. As I said in the book, in 1984, I was invited to come and give a lecture at the African Shrine at Pepper Street here in Ikeja when he was in detention, to raise awareness, to call on Nigerians to fight for his release. That was a challenge for me, so I needed to go back, listen to his music again, and analyze 10 of them at that, you know, lecture. Now the third phase was when I graduated and I become a journalist, a human rights activist, a political activist, and one was, you know, frequenting, you know, the shrine. I was coming to this house, and I had the privilege that Fela's doors were always, you know, open to me, because he also recognized the fact that I'm a fighter for social justice in the society. So we'll come here, and if you wanted to interview then, if you arrived 9 p.m., 10 p.m., that was too early. You had to come here around 12 midnight, and Fela would usually come out about 1 a.m., and then, you know, you start having, you know, interviews with him. And those interviews were very, very revealing about his politics, about his message. But also the fact that I was a regular, you know, at the shrine exposed me to the other sides of Fela that people didn't know. Fela, for example, would usually come in with a large entourage of his family, of friends, of girlfriends, and the rest of them. And at Pepper Street, which was a very, very small shrine, you didn't have enough seats. But Fela would not sit down until every other person had taken their seats. That was, you know, Fela for you. I knew Fela, who also gave opportunity to many other young artists. I first knew, for example, Majek Fashek at the shrine. He was then a member of a band that was called the Justice Band. they will come to the shrine to perform. Anybody that had the talent during his performances, Fela would leave and allow you to come and, if you wanted to play the guitar or the piano. So there was also the Fela that was a builder of other musicians. So if Majek Fashek later on exploded in the Nigerian musical scene, it was also because you had a Fela that gave them, that kind of opportunity. So with this wealth of knowledge, about Fela, I thought that I would be doing history injustice not to document, some of them, so that through my prism, some other people could at least understand the man Fela much more better.
Fela, we must stress this point. He's not just a Nigerian icon, he's a universal legend. And he rose to a level whereby his music has become part of a universal canon of persons who are recognized basically by one name. It's not every genius in the world, it's not every universal genius who rises to that level. So he has, attained a level of the one-name genius. Shakespeare, Chopin, Mozart, persons who, by just mentioning their first names, you recognize them in terms of their contribution, in terms of their connection to humanity. So I think there's no debate about that. Fela has become a universal brand. And I think that when you look back, you look at him and you see that his place in the canons, in the trajectory of genius, of achievement in his chosen field is already well established. And it will remain forever. Forever. You can't put a time to it. A great ambassador, not just of Nigeria, but also of Africa, but also of the black world, because of the distinctive stamp that he put on music through Afrobeat. When Fela sang all those songs about international chief and about corruption in Nigeria and about crisis of leadership in Nigeria, to the young people in Nigeria today, to perhaps half of the people who are here, that will look like another century. But those messages remain relevant. Those messages remain resonant. And I think that Fela, represents on the occasion of the 80th celebration of his birthday, or on the celebration of his 80th birthday, a message, a clear, symbolic, physical, rigorous message to the younger generation of Nigerian musicians. Or, if you like, you extend it artists. That look, when you do quality work, when you deliver, when you raise the level of your talent, when you provide genius rather than commercial art, you will be remembered long after. And in Fela's case, it's not just Fela that is remembered. If you look at his family, his children, DNA-wise, in terms of DNA, are also rising. You have Kuti, Big Bird, they call him on Twitter. You have Made, right? That's Femi's son. And then you have Femi Kuti's son. And then you have the daughter and other daughters, who are all into music. So you get it straight away that this is a family of gifted persons.